access code or meeting number followed by pound.
Do you have a packet for me? Thank you.
Okay, and I have one addition that's on here,
Okay.
but it is,
Okay.
do you remember where they had some calling?
Yes.
Enter your attendee ID number.
It's not on there,
Okay.
but I will pass out.
Extra.
20-116.
Okay.
And it's the wage sharing assignment phase 2. Same thing as the original resolution, it's just phase 2.
All right. We'll do that.
Okay, and Ellen is on there.
Super.
Here is the resolution.
Let me know when you're ready, Stacy.
I am.
Christy, are you on the line?
Stacy. Stacy.
Yeah.
Can I get
Miss
one of
Hill,
those?
are you on the line? Okay, she is not, but we're going to start. Invocation pledge, we're going to do the minutes, City Council regular meeting, May 4th, 2020, 6 p.m. Any questions? Approve monthly bills, approve April 2020 monthly bills. Any questions? Resolutions, Resolution 2111, approve special use permit request from AT&T to modify equipment on the existing water tower located at 703A 5th Avenue Southwest. Any changes?
No, ma'am. This is David Ammer with CMS. There's no changes.
Thank you, David. Any questions?
No.
Good to hear from you, Christy. Resolution 2112, Athens Utility Proposal Engineering for relocation of utilities at Bibb Garrett Road. Carl,
Yes, ma'am. There's no changes unless questions.
any questions?
No.
Resolution 2113, approved work squad agreement with Department of Corrections. Legal?
There's no
Okay.
change in that from last week.
Any questions?
Covers several different departments, yeah.
Sorry. Questions?
No.
All right. Resolution 2114, approve 2020 audit plan for internal auditor. Makisha? John, someone? No changes? Any questions?
No.
Thank you, Christy. Resolution 2115, budget amendments for animal services in an amount not to exceed $4,532 to be paid from animal services donation.
No changes.
Okay, no changes. Any questions?
None.
Okay. Resolution 2110, approved development of Limzell Johnson contingent offer. Any changes, Michelle?
No changes.
Questions, comments? All
No
right.
questions.
Ordinance number 24410, annexation request 359-20, Morris property, first reading was held on 5/4/20. Aaron,
No changes.
any questions from council for Aaron?
No.
Ordinance number 24408, establishing the use of electronic vote counting devices for municipal elections, first reading was held on 5/4/20. Stacy, any changes?
No changes.
Any questions by council?
None.
Anything from council? Anything
Not at the
from
moment.
department heads?
This is Rochelle.
Yes,
I needed
ma'am.
to get closer, please, to the development director interview selections from council.
I emailed mine to you this morning. By chance, did you receive those?
I did, yes, thank you.
Rochelle, I had a request last night, and I haven't received it yet. I would like the job description for that job and also the youth services job. I still have not received either one of those.
Okay,
If you could send them during the interim of the meeting and the pre-meeting, that'd be great.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Send
Rochelle,
it to everyone.
I will.
Rochelle, if you remember at a previous work session, I asked about the number of candidates to be chosen, and there was a failure to name a specific number. And given that that job is widely diverse, over which Wally was in charge, I'm not sure a job description adequately covers everything that person's supposed to manage, and certainly the applications we have are not qualified on one department or another. Virtually each and every one of the applications has an area of expertise and an area of lacking expertise. So I'm in a difficult position here. I guess rather than recommending none, I'll just take the top 7 from tier 1.
So our executive recruiter came to town and spent 3 days and spent a great deal of time with Wally, other partners in that process, other department heads, and the council members who were available to meet with her. I think she has a broad view of kind of what the city's looking for, not to mention she has a personal background as a community development manager, a planning director, a public works director. She did recommend, she rated her top 5 as Long, Poole, Singh, Watson, and Willingham. I hear what you're saying. I think that's why we engaged with the executive recruiter to help us with this process. There's always the option to interview all of the top tier 1 candidates, or the top 5, or whichever 3 the council would like to interview. I think we have to keep in mind that the job evolved because of who Wally is as a person and his networks and talents. So,
and again, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but each and every candidate has strengths and each and every candidate has weaknesses on that. So, you know, again, I think that any of the top 7 could be equally strong or equally weak.
And my position has been that there is no candidate, not in this pool or any other pool, that meets has the background that can meet all of the specific doctrines that we're looking for: engineering, planning, community development, building. There's no person that fits. And so I really think that we're looking for a jack of all trades but master of none. And with that being the case, I don't know that I can proceed with, as I've said before, we've already kind of faltered in this regard as far as I'm concerned, because we are in competition with other communities in our region. And this has to be treated as a business. And if we're going to conduct it as a business, we have to invest in that business. And I think anybody who's in business knows that you have to spend money to make money. And for us not to have a person who is specifically educated as a planner and a person who is specifically educated as an engineer, it kind of goes against the grain of that. And I think that that's why we're losing ground to some of our other communities. I just think that this is too broad a category for one person to fit in that. And no criticism of Wally, but I've said it publicly, and Wally and I have had this conversation. I think that Wally was a great asset to our city and our community, but the fact of the matter is he didn't have a background in any of those. And so I just don't think that we have any of the candidates that meet those qualifications that can cover all of them.
Rochelle, I've sent you mine.
thank you.
All right, John, real quick, I totally forgot, Stacy, we had to add the wayfinding signs. I believe she gave each of you an individual copy of Resolution 2116, approve a wayfinding signage project for Phase 2. That would have been Ms. Brenda Henson last week telling us about those signs and the necessity to get those up to get reimbursed. John, sorry.
No problem. Good morning. Just wanted to talk about some financial issues. On the Ingalls project, there was a change in the work method that's resulting in an increase of $4,200 to us. I don't see Brad, but it has to do with boring rather than trenching in order to get the fiber buried. And so there's an increase of $4,200 there.
So you need us to approve that 40?
No, sir, that is still under that project was a COVID project.
I think we authorized 20,000 on that.
You authorized 13. It was 13 and 15 split, 15 to DU, 13 to us.
But I think we authorized the project as not to exceed 20,000.
I don't think there was any resolution or anything on that. That was just a notification of one of the COVID-related items.
Would you just double check on that when you have time to be sure that, I was pretty sure there was a resolution on that. And I was pretty sure it was coming out of the
There was
unassigned
something
fund
else
balance.
that, my memories, there was something else that was a not to exceed 20, but I don't think it was that, but I will check.
Thank you, John.
The PPE has pretty much the 25,000 has run its course, so I am adding another 10,000 to the PPE line. I sent out the expense reports and went through the expense side of the budget to look at things where we're not going to execute. Mainly where that comes in is training. All the conferences, seminars, things like that are being canceled left and right. A big chunk was the marketing. There's like $271,000 in marketing. I don't think we're going to be doing any marketing to the end of the year. And so between the marketing and went out to the department heads, and basically the guidance was we'll fund basic training. So if we hire police or firemen, we got to send them to basic training. We'll fund that. Any local training, so that's training that doesn't involve travel, overnight stay, things like that. And then the online training. Everything else will get reduced, and they have to give me their input by tomorrow. So what I'd like to do is have the authority to move that to a miscellaneous line to keep the revenue and the expenses for the budget in balance, and just move those expenses by journal entry for budget adjustments to a miscellaneous line, so we have a audit trail. So at any point I can tell you, okay, here are the specific reductions we made.
I want to commend you for doing that. I think that's very wise to modify those budgets based on the situation that we're in.
And we'll look more, and I'll bring them to you. I'll discuss them with the mayor and the department heads and bring them to you and say, okay, we're cutting this back, we're cutting that back, so.
Thank you,
John, help me understand, please. You're taking training that was normally in a department budget, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're going to take it out, and it's going to be in one general line miscellaneous item.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what does that do for us?
That keeps your revenue and your expenses in balance from a budget standpoint. And since it'll be in a miscellaneous line that I only have access to, it won't be spent. So it's going to be a budget line that basically has no expenses hitting against it. And if somebody comes back, like for instance, the police chief right now has a conference in August that hasn't been canceled. If it's not canceled, we may have to fund it, and I may have to transfer some of that money we pulled back to fund that trip. Okay, but it keeps everything in balance. If I just reduce expenses, then your revenue in your budget is exceeding your expenses, things get out of balance. It's better to do it that way.
I guess I'm okay with it. I'm just trying to get a handle on, what we gain by separating it out, but it's fine. You're doing a good job.
Right now, within the operating budget, a department head is operating on a bottom line. Okay, so training is part of his budget or her budget, as well as office supplies, repairs, fixed assets under 7,500, and it's a bottom line. So basically, somebody can spend in the hole on one line and let that training money offset it and keep it positive.
So you're trying to keep that from being...
Well, I'm just trying to isolate
Failure to
it so
control
I
it.
can account for it.
Okay. Very, very good. Again, like I said, I'm not opposed. I just wanted to understand it better. Thanks, John.
At some point, and maybe the next work session may be appropriate, we need to talk about the roads. We've got the road plans, which were basically the gas tax funds, crossings, and the capital fund. All but 4 projects have been completed or near completion. The 4 that haven't been started are Fremont Road, 8th Street from 7th Avenue to 14th Avenue.
Is that 8th Street Southwest?
Southeast. It was
Southeast.
along the
Southeast, okay.
Emergency room entrance.
Regency Boulevard, and the Central Parkway Service Road. Those 4. We have stopped because my estimate of all the taxes that we're going to collect for gas taxes, we've pretty much spent. So anything beyond this point, if we're going to proceed, we need to proceed with general fund money. That's the only other source.
And are we anticipating the gas tax money diminishing a little bit with people traveling less?
No, that's the reason why we're stopping without doing those 4 projects, because looking at it and estimating what I think is a reasonable number and talking with engineering on what they've spent so far, we decided, okay, this is a good place to draw the line. I think we may have still overspent. I don't know, I don't have enough data to project that, but if we overspent by 50 to 100,000, come the end of the year, we're gonna have to pay it off with general fund money.
So these 4 roads not completed, they're now at risk for not getting done this year.
That's correct, unless council votes to use general fund money to do the projects.
Carl, are you on the line?
I am. If these roads don't get funded or don't get done this year, they'll be on next year's list to be accomplished.
Will they be on the front of the list?
Well, they'll be on a list that I guess they'll be at the top of my list to do, and just depending on where we can, I guess, most efficiently move around town, I guess whether they'll be on the front end of those done or the back end.
Thank you.
I would say it would depend on the grading, wouldn't you, Carl? They've been graded, right?
Yeah, they've been graded.
Are they failing?
But remember, you've got one
yeah.
that, quote, wasn't a road and therefore isn't graded.
Are they failing, Carl? I didn't hear your answer.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So that's pretty much the status on the road, so you know where we are on that. Final item on the budget process. Department heads will be finishing up inputs to me by Friday, this Friday. I'll go through the preliminary with some, the easy questions, why this, why that. But what I need council to start thinking about is a window in June where we do the department head meetings where the liaison can sit in with their department to go through, so we don't do this. Last year we did it twice because nobody sat in. And so that's the opportunity, really, if you want a priority in the budget, or you've got something specifically that you need to get addressed, that's the time to put it in. It's very difficult come August or September when we bring a balanced budget to council, and then all of a sudden we say, well, we want to do this $500,000 project. It's a zero-sum game. You add 500,000 at the last moment, now you got to find 500,000 to cut. So the best time is you got to come to these meetings and weigh in at that time.
Now, you're specifically thinking of this in terms of our departments and not involving appropriations at this time.
That's correct. Appropriations will be a public work session. Probably 2, if I had to guess.
I appreciate that, John, because I sat in last year as liaison, and so it was very helpful. So I'd like to participate, obviously, if circumstances allow me to.
Mm-hmm. But we need
I'll email you about that.
We need to do it in June.
Okay.
So I just ask that you look at your calendars. We can schedule, department heads are here Monday through Friday, full work days, so we can schedule around your schedules. We just need to know what your schedules are.
I'll look over my departments and send you a list of which days to avoid for those for me.
Yes, sir. And I'll send an email out probably next week just to remind everybody.
Thank you, John.
That's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you. Good work.
Anything else? Okay, see you in about 11 minutes. Thank you.
Sure. You know, just
Call to order. Mr. Alan Stover will be saying our invocation and pledge of allegiance to the flag. Thank you, Alan.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, as we approach your throne this morning, God, we just thank you for your many blessings today, God. God, we thank you for the city, God, for the state and for this country, God. And I just pray that as a nation, God, that we would come together as your word says in 2 Chronicles, God, if your people who are called by your name will humble themselves and pray, then you'll hear from heaven and heal our land, God, and our land needs healed this morning. God, more than just this coronavirus, God, but God, I just pray that you would just be with us as a nation, God, that we would come together, God, and understand that we can disagree with things, God, without being just hateful and the hate, God, that seems like it just continues to spread. God, I just pray that you'd just be with this council, God. God, I pray that you'd give them the knowledge, God, to make the decisions that needs to be made. God, I pray that you'd give them the wisdom that they need, God, and we just praise you and honor you for, God, what you've done. God, we just thank you for going to Calvary's cross for our sins. Just be with us, lead, guide, and direct us. In Jesus Christ's holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Alan. Roll call, please.
Libby.
Present.
Ard.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Hill.
Here.
Kirby.
Here.
Chip, now do we need to do the vote about?
Yes.
So read the top number one, is that what we do?
I would just do the thing, for all the items on there, just do it as one, if they're,
Okay. To follow the guidelines of what the governor has put in place. These are, actually that's not on here, so I'm kind of winging it. Tell me what we're voting on.
just finding that the items contained on the agenda today are essential government functions and minimal government functions for purposes of the governor's directive.
So
moved.
Motion. Have a
So
second.
moved.
Motion by Mr. Ard, a second by Mrs. Hill. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Libby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
No.
Motion's been approved, 3-2. We have the approval of minutes, City Council regular meeting, May 4th, 2020, 6 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ard, second by Mrs. Hill. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Libby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Abstain.
Motion is approved 4-0 with one abstention. Monthly bill approval, monthly bills for April 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ard, second by Mrs. Hill. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Libby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Abstain.
Motion's been approved 4-0 with one abstention. Resolutions for today. Resolution number 2111, approved special use permit request from AT&T to modify equipment on the existing water tower located at 703A 5th Avenue Southwest. David?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, council. My name is David Ammett, CMS. This resolution is for AT&T to modify their equipment on the existing water tower located at 703A 5th Avenue Southwest. AT&T is proposing to add one filter to one of the antennas at the height of 117 feet. They will not be modifying any of the antennas or the speed lines on the tower at this time. CMS has reviewed the application and recommends approval by the council.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ard, second by Mrs. Hill. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Libby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Abstain.
Motion's approved 3-0 with two abstentions. Resolution number 20-112, Athens Utility Proposal Engineering for relocation of utilities at Bibb Garrett Road. Carl?
Yes, Mayor Council, Carl Pruitt, City Engineer. This is an agreement and I guess some budget asked for the electric relocation for our Bibb Garrett Road project with Athens Utilities. Recommend y'all approve it.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hill and a second by Mr. Ard. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Motion's been approved 5-0. Resolution number 2113, approve work squad agreement with Department of Corrections. Herman?
Alrighty, it continues our agreement with the Department of Corrections. There's several different departments that use corrections inmates in their work activities, and this just continues it on for those various departments. Wanda and Safety Department, Rodney, were the ones that initiated it, but it covers all the departments in one agreement with Department of Corrections, so we can continue using their inmates once they make them available.
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Ard, second by Mrs. Hill.
Second.
Discussion.
Herman, let me ask you a question. What is the urgency that's associated with this? Are we under some sort of timeline?
Well, the agreement expired, and Rodney and Wanda thought it was appropriate to keep it in place because we're waiting to get those employees, these inmates back in place. That was the rush, because our other one has expired, is what I was told.
So we continue to work under a continuing resolution with that agreement as we speak? Because they're still there and the agreement has expired, are we just working still under that agreement now?
No inmates
They're not
are
there.
out. She's-
I guess.
The
that's what I'm saying.
DOC's not allowing.
Well, it's expired, so, again, if they're not there, well, that even furthers the case. If they're not there, why are we dealing with this right now instead
I
of?
guess the correct question is there a place other than the sanitation sorting that they are on the job?
Well, I'm gonna have to yell to Wanda and Rodney because they're the ones that said we needed to get it in place because our agreement had expired. So that's my best answer. I just did the resolution and be in place.
Okay.
Hi, this is Wanda.
Hey, Wanda.
Hey, yeah, we want to go ahead and put something in place so that when the lockdown is over with in regards to the Department of Corrections lockdown, that we can resume the recycling program. But we want to make sure everything was in place so there won't be any issues when we resume the program. Also, I know not only, is it important to the recycling department, but also the landfill, streets and environmental, parks and recreation. We all use them and just want to make sure everything was in place after the quarantine in regards to the virus.
My question is, Wanda, and I'm not questioning the need for these people that we have working, not at all. I guess I'm trying to figure out if this is the timing of it is of a minimum essential function at this particular time, or could it wait until we got closer to the time when we start to do things in a normal fashion? And that's all I was trying to find out, but I appreciate your answer.
Anything else? To recap, I had a motion by Mr. Ard, a second by Mrs. Hill. Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Same.
Hill. Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Have passed that 4-0 with one abstention. Resolution 2114, approved 2020 audit plan for internal auditor. Keisha? John?
If you recall, we approved the standards and the charter. The charter calls for a plan to be developed and approved by council. The internal audit developed the plan, ran it by myself and the mayor, and it's presented to you for approval.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mrs. Hill, second by Mr. R. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Debbie?
Aye.
Art?
Aye.
Jackson?
Same.
Hill?
Aye.
Kirby?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with 1 abstention. Resolution number 2115, budget amendment for animal services in an amount not to exceed $4,532 to be paid from the animal services donations.
Yes, Chief Allen here. This here is to replace some fencing. The dogs currently that we have are able to chew through the fencing and get out. We had one employee that was bitten by a dog that got hung up in the fencing. So we just trying to replace the fencing with a little, get a more upgraded type of fencing to keep the dogs in.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hill, second by Mr. R. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Debbie?
Aye.
Art?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Kirby?
Aye.
Motion is passed 5-0. Resolution number 2110, approved development of Limzell Johnson contingent offer. HR? or
So
Shep?
moved.
Okay. Motion by Mr. R.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Hill. Discussion.
As most of you know, there was 4 positions that I asked us to put a hold on until we had a better grip on our finances, and council voted against that, but my instincts don't let me move beyond that, so I'm just not in favor of moving forward until this financial crisis is over.
Any other discussion? I will say I will be abstaining. I have posed 4 questions to, 4 different people in HR, mayor's office, legal, some other agencies, and not received any of those answers. And I requested those be answered before today. So I will be abstaining. Anything else? To recap, I have a motion by Mr. Ard and a second by Mrs. Hill. Roll call, please.
Bibby?
Abstain?
Art?
Aye.
Jackson?
No.
Hill?
Aye.
Kirby?
Abstain.
Motion fails with 2 ayes, 2 abstentions, and 1 no. Go to G, which is on the handout that Stacy gave you, Resolution 2116, approving wayfinding signage project for Phase 2. Brenda, are you on the line?
I am.
If you'd like to recap for us, that'd be great.
Okay, so in 2019, I brought before the council a request for 8 entrance signs, 4 of which were for Albany Historic District, the other 4 for Old Decatur Historic District. The council approved Phase 1, which was the first 4 signs. Those signs were installed in April by Parks and Rec. We are now proposing to get the other 4 signs. The first 4 signs were paid for by the Historic Decatur Association. The final 4 signs will be initially paid for by the association but reimbursed by a grant from the Alabama Mountains, Rivers, and Valleys Resource Conservation and Development Council. That reimbursement is dependent upon us getting the signs hurriedly installed and our documentation submitted by September 3rd. So that is the reason for the hurry request and request for approval today, so that we can get the signs ordered. We have put off ordering the Phase 2 signage pending approval from the council for the placement. I did send all of you an email, again, just reminding you of the locations for those signs in Phase 2, one of which is at the entrance to Albany at Gordon and 6th. The second one in Albany is at the entrance to Albany at Moulton and 6th. The third sign is at the entrance to Old Decatur, where a current sign sits right beside the Chamber of Commerce on Walnut Street. The final sign is where a current sign, old sign, currently exists right beside Founders Park at the entrance to Old Decatur on Canal Street. The signage, we are asking that the city, just as they did with phase 1, receive the 4 signs that are designed and put in and ordered for us by the Macomb Group. We are asking that the city receive those signs and do the installation mirroring that of phase 1. The only difference in the signage design from phase 1 to phase 2 is that it has been determined by 6th Avenue Gateway Project and agreed upon by us that the most appropriate sign for the Gordon and 6th Avenue sign is a single-sided, double-posted sign, shorter in stature than the others that have been in place, but very, I guess you could say, mimics the sign sitting in front of the depot and also the entrance to Old Town. The only difference being that it is a one-sided sign. One-sided only because of how it will sit on 6th Avenue and not be visible from the exterior side. So there was no need to incur the cost of a double-sided sign when it's only going to be seen from one direction. So to sum up, our request of you is obviously the approval of the sign location and the approval of the city receiving the sign and installation of the sign.
Thank you, Brenda.
Welcome.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hill, second by Mr. Jackson. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution's been approved, 5-0. Ordinances for today. Ordinance number 24410, annexation request 359-20, Morris property, first reading held on 5/4/20. Erin?
Good morning. So this application was submitted by P. Wright McAnally on behalf of Morris Holdings LLC. The parcel is located north of Upper River Road between Old River Road and Deer Road and consists of a total of approximately 97 acres. You've previously seen this application it was a successful pre-zoning, and the future land use map identifies this area as mixed neighborhood, and Upper River Road and Old River Road are classified as neighborhood connectors. The proposed development is appropriate for both identified future land use and street classification.
Thank you, Erin.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Ard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Hill. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Abstain.
Motion's approved 3-0 with 2 abstentions. Ordinance number 24408, establishing the use of electronic vote counting devices for municipal elections. First reading was held on 5/4/20. Stacy?
Yes, council, the state code of Alabama in 17-721 requires each city that's going to be having a municipal election to do this ordinance, file it with the Secretary of State, and stating that we will be using the DS-200 and also the express vote for ADA.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kirby and a second by Mr. Jackson. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Ordinance is passed 5-0. John, I think that's all we have on the list. Would you like to address what we addressed in the pre-meeting?
Good morning, John Andrieski, Chief Financial Officer. Just to update you on some financial issues. Previously, we approved the fiber work at Ingalls at a cost of approximately $13,000. Part of the work has changed. I don't see Brad here again, but it's my understanding they've gone from trenching to burying the fiber to a boring process, and so the cost increase to us is $4,200. That was funded out of Fund 10, the Ingalls maintenance, and under the need for COVID, in case we use that building as an emergency facility for any COVID-related purpose. PPE, we established a level of $25,000. We've run through that, so I've increased the PPE budget line by $10,000. I sent out to everyone the expense reports on the FY20 budget. In reviewing those, there are some lines that are, to me, minimally executable in terms of things like training, conferences, seminars, talk with the mayor on the marketing. So I'd like to be able to move as we find different expenses that will not be incurred, is to move that to a central location so it's isolated. I have an audit trail and I can provide you with that information at any time. The training that we will approve will be basic training, which is your training for your new hired police and fire. Local training, so that's any training somebody goes to that doesn't involve overnight, and online training. Also, we're making the assumption that a lot of the training, if not all of the training, will not be executable this fiscal year. If it does, then we'll make adjustments to be able to execute that training. We got, we talked about roads with gas tax revenue down, and talking with Carl about the projects and where he was in the last couple of weeks. Looks like there's 4 projects that we will not get to this year unless we agree to fund it with general fund money. And that's Fremont Road, 8th Street between 7th and 14th Avenue, Regency Boulevard, and Central Parkway Service Road. So at some point, we can talk about, as we get a better feel going down the road on the gas taxes, things like that. I think we may be anywhere from 50 to 100,000 over already, but and that's why we put the hold on these 4. But it doesn't stop us from applying general fund money to do these projects. And finally, the department heads will be wrapping up their budget input at the end of the week. We'll do a quick review, and we'd like to schedule meetings encouraging council members to sit in where they are liaisons, so we get input. That's the opportunity, the time to express priorities and areas of interest. A lot easier to adjust the budget at that point than to adjust it when we're looking to get it approved. So if you could start looking at your calendars for maybe the 2nd or 3rd week in June, starting around that time frame, that's what we're looking for. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Anything from council? Anything from?
Nothing.
Anything from department heads?
Yes, ma'am. This is Rochelle, the Director of Development Candidate Selection.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we?
I think Ms. Hill
I understood.
said she emailed. Chuck, you said you emailed. Is that correct? I'll get it to you, or I'll tell you now, whichever.
I gave my position.
Okay. And Mr. Jackson gave his position. Charles, will you email yours or give her your position?
I already said I'm stuck between abstaining and not wanting the position hired and recommending the top 7 from the tier 1, partially because, again, the job covers so many departments, and all the applicants are well qualified in one department, but not necessarily in other departments. And one or the other has a weakness on everything and a strength.
I tend to agree, Rochelle, with Mr. Jackson, Mr. Kirby. I do, though, the only one that I feel good about even recommending is Chandler M. Poole. That would be my only one to recommend. Now, I will say on the back, on Tier 2, there was one who is from the city of Tuskegee, who is the acting city manager, Kevin L. Owens. I know they put them as not qualified, but that may be someone that I'd like to see an expansion of their qualities and capabilities.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, nothing to say? Nothing to add? No, sir? Okay, I guess that's a no. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.